Hare Krishna. So today we are reading from Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 14, which is called the three modes of material nature, and the texts numbers are number 20 and 21. So on these two verses we'll discuss. First I'll read verse 20 myself, and 21 we can recite together. So the verse 20 goes like this: Gunan etan atitya trin dehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukher vimukto amritam ashnate. Which means, when the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes associated with the material body, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. So, purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanarvind Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, and the translation. The purport is, how can one stay in the transcendental position, even in this body, in full Krishna consciousness, is explained in this verse. The Sanskrit word dehi means embodied. Although one is within this material body, by his advancement in spiritual knowledge, he can be free from the influence of the modes of nature. He can enjoy the happiness of spiritual life even in this body, because after leaving this body, he is certainly going back to the spiritual sky. But even in this body, he can enjoy spiritual happiness. In other words, devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the sign of liberation from material entanglement. And this will be explained in the 18th chapter. When one is freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, he enters into devotional service. In other words, devotional service in Krishna consciousness is a sign of liberation from material entanglement. And this will be explained in the 18th chapter. When one is freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, he enters into devotional service. And now text 21 we'll recite together. Please repeat after me. Arjuna Uvacha Kair, word to word first, Kair Linges Trin Gunan Etan Atito Bhavati Prabho Kim Acharaha Katham Chetams Trin Gunan Ativartate. Arjuna Uvacha Keralinges Trin Gunan Etan Atito Bhavati Prabho Kim Achara Katham Chaitams Trin Gunan Ativartate. So word to word translation, and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanarvind Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please repeat after me. Arjuna Uvacha, Arjun said, Kai, by which, Lingai, symptoms, Trin, three, Gunan, qualities, Etan, all these, Atitha, having transcended, Bhavati, is, Prabho, O my Lord, Kim, what, Acharaha, behavior, Katham, how, Cha, also, etan, these, threen, three, gunan, qualities, ativartate, transcends. Translation: Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature? Please repeat after me. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by which symptoms is one known who is transcendental to these three modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature? Purport. In this verse, Arjuna's questions are very appropriate. He wants to know the symptoms of a person who has already transcended the material modes. He first inquires of the symptoms of such transcendental person. How can one understand that he has already transcended the influence of the modes of material nature? The second question asks how he lives and what his activities are. Are they regulated or non-regulated? Then Arjuna inquires of the means by which he can attain the transcendental nature. That is very important. Unless one knows the direct means by which one can be situated always transcendently, there is no possibility of showing the symptoms. I'll just repeat that again. That is very important. Unless one knows the direct means by which one can be situated always transcendently, there is no possibility of showing the symptoms. So all these questions put by Arjuna are very important, and the Lord answers them. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So these two verses, 20 and 21, as this chapter of Bhagavad-Gita tells us, the chapter is entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature. So these two verses are naturally being directed, is in that context, and text 21 is where Arjuna is asking about these three modes as to the symptoms of a person who has transcended these three modes, and what is his behavior, and how to transcend these modes. We may remember earlier in chapter 2, text 54, Arjuna asked other questions. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad-Gita is at the back. You can get a copy. Bhagavad-Gita. So earlier in chapter 2, and previously also Arjuna has asked many questions, but in chapter 2, text 54, Arjuna had inquired from the Supreme Lord, Sthit Pragasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshav stitdhi kim prabhashet kim asit vrajet kim. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak, and what is his language? How does he sit, and how does he walk? So earlier he inquired about the person who is transcendentally situated, sthit pragya. But at that time, Arjuna did not ask about the modes of material nature. He asked about his behavior, how does he walk, how does he sit. But at that time, Arjuna himself apparently did not know about the three modes of material nature. And in fact, one finds throughout the Bhagavad-Gita, the topic of three modes of material nature is intertwined in everything. And three modes of material nature is everywhere, present in this world. And when Arjuna learns about that, and especially this one chapter is dedicated to the three modes of material nature, it just shows how important this topic, this knowledge of the three modes of material nature is. So earlier, Arjuna did not inquire, but now he is inquiring in text 21 as to, now please tell me, my Lord, what are the symptoms of the same transcendental person in the three modes of material nature? So very similar question. But before that, we go into the three modes of material nature, into details as to how one transcends them, what is the behavior of a person. Let's look at briefly, just to recap, chapter 14, as to what are the three modes of material nature, just very briefly, starting from text 5 onwards. Lord Krishna tells that these three modes of material nature, when the living entity actually comes in contact, or when he comes into this material world, when he leaves the spiritual world, as soon as the living entity comes into the material world, he is captured, entrapped by the material energy. And this material energy consists of three modes of material nature. And mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. And Lord Krishna gives a bit more details about what are these are. The mode of goodness, being purer than others, is illuminating. It frees one from all sinful reactions. And those situated in this mode, they are conditioned by a sense of happiness. So these are the symptoms of a person, either a mode of goodness, mode of passion, or mode of ignorance. So it's illuminated. The result of being in mode of goodness is one is happy, one is knowledgeable. And then the mode of passion means it brings about a lot of desires and longings. One has a lot of desires to fulfill. One is longing for something, intense desires sometimes. And that means fruitive activities, karma kand. Mode of passion goes in eventually to fulfill the desires and the longings one indulges in from a spiritual perspective, karma kand activities. And then mode of ignorance actually is the state of delusion. The result is madness, indolence, and sleep, and which binds the spiritual soul, the conditioned soul, I should say. Mode of passion conditions one to happiness. Just to recap these three verses. Passion conditions one to fruitive actions, and ignorance and covering ignorance covers one's knowledge and binds one to madness. And then Lord Krishna says there is always competition between these three modes. Sometimes we see ourselves, sometimes one may be in mode of goodness, sometimes mode of passion, and maybe in mode of ignorance. Then sometimes one jumps from one mode to the other mode depending on the situation, depending on the circumstances, our nature, the environment we're in, etc., etc., etc. There's always competition. Sometimes within a short period, one can go from mode of goodness to mode of ignorance, or mode of ignorance to mode of goodness. That happens all the time. And Krishna says there's a competition is going on between them. And then manifestation of mode of goodness can be experienced, as earlier said, through knowledge. And when there's increased mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activities, intense endeavor, uncontrollable desire and hankering develops. Passion brings that. And ignorance, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion. And through mode of goodness, one goes up to the the higher planets of the sages. Whereas mode of passion means when after death one takes birth, engaged in fruitive activities. And ignorance, if one dies in mode of ignorance, goes to the animal species, the animal kingdom. And the result of action in mode of passion, Krishna continues now, text 16, brings misery, whereas mode of goodness results in foolishness. And from mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. Satvat sanjayate jnanam, rajaso lobha evacha. And from mode of passion, greed develops. Paramada moha tamaso. And from mode of ignorance, develops foolishness, madness, and illusion. Bhavato jnanam evacha. So, and then last verse, text 19, after Krishna says, when one properly sees in all activities, nanyam gunabhya karataram yada drishtanu pashyati gunabhyasya param veti madbhavam swadhigacchati. When one properly sees that in all activities that no other performer is at work than these modes of nature, and he knows his Supreme Lord who is transcendental to all these modes, he attains my spiritual nature. So that means in everything we do, everything in this world, who's behind that? It is three modes of material nature. Then the question comes, what is an individual doing? Is the individual just being controlled like a puppet by the three modes of material nature? Yes, in one sense, yes. Unless one transcends these modes. We may have seen, I don't know if it's in Bhagavad-Gita, a photograph where Durga Devi is holding the human beings like puppets, the three modes of material nature. That's exactly what Krishna is saying here. As soon as one enters the material world, he gets trapped by the Durga Devi, the energy, external energy of Lord Krishna. And then she is a puppeteer and one becomes puppet. And in three modes of material nature, one acts, and in continually, life after life, one continues to act. And in chapter 13, text 22, Krishna talks about that. Purusha prakitistohi bhunkte prakitijan gunan karanam guna sangasya sad asad yoni janmisu. In fact, this is the connection between chapter 13 and chapter 14. What is that? The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life. What is the way of life? Action in three modes of material nature. And through that, he enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. So as soon as the living entity associates with the material nature, even forcefully, unknowingly, and through that, the living entity is enjoying through various species of life, 8,400,000 species of life. Thus, he meets with good and evil amongst various species. How does he meet with good and evil? Due to one's activity, one's karma, in various species of life, especially human species. And chapter 13 talks about, again, it's called the nature, enjoyer, and consciousness. Chapter 13 describes the living entity, the conditioned living entity, how he suffers. Although he's independent, individual, is in the material modes of nature. And chapter 14 is describing how the living entity is entrapped by these three modes. And at the end, Lord Krishna in their chapter 14 gives this solution how to transcend them. How to transcend, how to go beyond the three modes of material nature. And these three modes of material nature is, as I said earlier on, is present everywhere. One cannot get away from being influenced by the three modes of material nature. In the sense, we find that the Varnashram system, the four divisions of human society, Krishna says, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam, Guna Karma Vibhagasha. According to the three modes of material nature, what does it say? The exact English is, according to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. So again, the three modes are coming. And three modes actually prevent, unless and until one transcends them, they actually prevent one from advancing in spirituality and knowing Krishna. In chapter 7, text 13, Krishna says that Tribhir gun mayer bhaver ebhi sarvam idam jagat mohitam nabhi janati mam ebhya param avvayam. Deluded by the three modes, the whole world does not know me, Krishna is saying. Who am above the modes and inexhaustible. So, and the greatest enemy, we find, greatest enemy of this world, Arjuna asks a question in text chapter 3, text 33, 34. Also, he asks Lord Krishna about what is the greatest enemy in this world, text 36, 37. Atha ken paryoktayam papam chariti purusha. Anichana bhivarshneya baladiva niyojita. Arjuna is saying, but what is that by which one is impelled to sinful acts, even by force? And Krishna replies in next text, text 36, Kama esha, Krodha esha, Rajo guna, Samudbhava. Mahashano mahapapma vidyan eham, vidya enam ihya varunam. Again, the mode of passion, one of the three modes is coming. Krishna says it is lust only, Arjun, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion, and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Again, how the three modes of material nature are playing their part in everything one does. There's nothing in this world which is above the three modes of material nature. So one should try. The aim is, we see here, text 20. Again, go back to text 20 of this chapter. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes, how is one able to transcend these three modes? That's the next question. And later on in this chapter, text 26, Krishna answers that. 2-3 verses later, Mam cha yo avvebhicharin bhakti yogen sevate sa gunan sammittetan brahma bhoyaya kalpate. That's the answer. What is the answer? One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Earlier on, Devi Hayesha Gunmai, Mama Maya Durattaya, Mamevaya Prapadante, Maya Itam Tarantite. That's another way. Krishna, same thing. This Devi, this energy, this is very difficult to overcome, Krishna says. But one who surrenders unto him immediately overcomes that. So, this material modes. So the idea is we all, one way or another, is being influenced, being entrapped by the three modes of material nature. If one is able to transcend the modes of material nature, as text 20 is saying, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and distresses. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. So these 4 stages everyone goes through. He can become free and enjoy nectar even in this life. So if one can, by surrendering to Krishna, by practicing devotional service, one can transcend that. But what is that stage called? This stage is known as Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta Sauchyate. Eya yasya harera dasya manasa karmana gira. So by one's action, one's by mind and words, if one performs actions for the pleasure or for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even in this present body one can transcend the bodily platform, transcend the 3 modes of material nature, and be situated in Jivan Mukta, or the situation of liberation, the platform of liberation, even in this material body. And Prabhupada is talking about in the purport, because if that happens, then naturally, inevitably, the next destination after this body is going back to this spiritual world. And then text 21, because we're looking at 20 and 21, Arjuna is asking the symptoms. It is very important, as he asks in 254, what are the symptoms of a transcendental person? So it's very important to know the symptoms. One is judged. One can judge somebody by the symptoms, the behavior. What is his behavior? And what are the symptoms? Not that one takes somebody for granted without... Actually, Srila Prabhupada, in the very first text of chapter 1 in the purport, he talks about analyzing this Bhagavad-Gita as it is from all different angles. One should not take it for granted, take it blindly. And Prabhupada encourages that, encourages questions. That's what Arjuna is asking. That's what Bhagavad-Gita is all about, question and answer. That is what our scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, somebody is answering, somebody is questioning. That's how the learning process takes place. And by questioning, one gets to the bottom of the subject matter. One goes deeper into the subject matter. So one is encouraged to ask questions and find out and inquire rather than take things for granted or take things blindly, as sometimes is the case in this world. When somebody comes and talks about spiritual life, the other person may, it doesn't happen in ISKCON, but outside ISKCON especially, anyone who's dressed up as a sadhu, whatever he or she says is taken as a gospel, as a truth, without any inquiry, without any research, without looking into the behavior of the person, symptoms of a devotee, etc. So that is discouraged. One should not take that for granted, but inquire and look at from every angle. One should always use one's intelligence and the power of discrimination. That's what Arjuna is doing here. So using one's intelligence. So the next question comes: why is it important to transcend the modes of material nature, as Krishna is saying, Mam chayo abhyacharan bhakti-yoga sevate. Through the devotional service, sa gunan sammitatan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. So when one transcends the modes of material nature, the next platform one enters is Brahma Bhut, Brahman level. And 1854, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kangshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. So unless and until one transcends the mode of material nature and comes to the level of Brahman, devotional service of bhakti does not begin. So bhakti only begins at the level, at the platform of Brahman. Krishna says, one who thus transcendently situated at once realizes the supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. So that's a symptom of a person situated in that platform. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. So one has to transcend modes, come to the level of Brahman, Brahma Bhuta stage, and from that devotional service or bhakti begins. Why one needs to come to the level of bhakti? Because bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanishchashmi tattvata. Next verse. Tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadantaram. Lord Krishna is saying, one can understand as I am, the Supreme Lord, only by devotional service. So modes of nature, Brahma Bhuta stage, bhakti level, and then knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when one is in full consciousness of me, by such devotion, he enters the kingdom of God. He goes back to Godhead. As Prabhupada stresses so many times throughout his teachings, throughout his literatures, the aim of an individual who's practicing, aim of a sadhaka, whose path of devotional service is to go back to Godhead. And that's what this different, we're going gradually. The Bhagavad-Gita, Lord Krishna is bringing Arjuna from the lowest level, seemingly from lowest level to the higher level. And that's what transcending the modes of material nature is all about. Our aim, if we are not already, should be to be at least in the mode of goodness. And then be on the platform of Vishuddha Sattva. That's what text 20 is talking about, of chapter 14. Being on Vishuddha Sattva. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudev Shabditam. So this level of Vasudev, that is what means Jivan Mukta stage. And that is our aim. How to do that? Doesn't mean we have to do individually, look at each modes, their symptoms, how to transcend them individually. No. One just has to practice devotional service, nothing else. And devotional service, as we know the definition of what it means, we won't go into that. Bhakti, just by being on the platform of bhakti, one automatically transcends everything in life. That is the one-stop solution to all the problems in life. One key which opens all the locks is devotional service. One has to practice devotional service. But then, while practicing devotional service, bhakti, one has to avoid certain things. Nectar of Instructions talks about that. 6 items which promotes bhakti, which are favorable, and 6 items which are unfavorable. Utsaha nishchay dhairya tat karam parvartanat. These are sangha sato vritte. So these are favorable things. Then there are unfavorable things. Atyahara prayascha, lolyam, etc. So these are unfavorable things. One has to be careful. And obviously in devotional service, one has to, while practicing, one has to avoid the offenses. Then sometimes while practicing devotional service, one finds seemingly, apparently, one is not kind of transcending. One is still getting influenced by the modes of material nature. That happens. Happens to the best of us. We find there are certain reasons, there are certain triggers that brings one from the higher mode to the lower mode. Some circumstances, some triggers. Somebody may have some illness, headache, hunger. Some may have whatever reason it may be, some personal things that triggers a fall down from the top to bottom. But one thing is what helps is the mind. One has to force oneself if needed. One has to be determined. One has to make a vow that yes, my aim is to be situated at least in the mode of goodness. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to try my hard to be situated in the mode of goodness all the time. But the more we try, practice makes perfect. Abhyasena viragya cha griyate. Abhyasena tu konteya viragya cha griyate. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. By practice, things will become perfect. So we have to practice. One has to practice. A sadhaka has to practice, be constantly to be on the mode of goodness. And only then, again, there are triggers which one brings one down. But the more we practice and prepare next time, if one falls down, prepare next time, because situation will inevitably, same situation or a similar situation will inevitably arise where one is influenced by lower modes. So one is ready next time. So, chapter 6, Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, Uddher Atma Atmanam Na Atmanam Asvadayet. One has to deliver oneself with the help of the mind and not degrade oneself. So, mind, keeping the mind in the right direction, because mind is the one's best of enemies, best of friends or worst of enemies. So, mind, keeping the mind in right direction, in the right way, is the key in performing devotional service. Obviously, association is there, etc., etc., etc. That is also very key. But mind is the best, one of the best ways to be situated, and one of the best ways to progress in spiritual life. And there are various ways of controlling the mind. We read that, various aspects, various ways to keep the mind in control, whether through association, through prayer, through kind of ignoring the demands of the mind. There are various ways. But the best way, we know, is the chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, which is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So that is the means and the end. The mean and the end of devotional service is chanting, and that is a way to control the mind. If the mind is controlled, then it's very easy to progress from one mode to another and then go beyond the three modes of material nature and be situated at Vishuddha Sattva level or Brahma Bhuta level. And again, Brahma Bhuta level, there's symptoms, Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu. And then Bhakti, one at that level, true, pure Bhakti is practiced. And through pure Bhakti, one knows Krishna, one associates with Krishna, and at the end, enters the kingdom of God, goes back to Godhead. And that is the aim of everyone, especially those practicing devotional service. And we are very fortunate that this path has been shown to us by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanat Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And it is our duty to take this path very seriously. But that seriousness comes in our behavior, and whether one is influenced, how much everyone's influenced, how much is influenced negatively or positively by the three modes of material nature. And it is that we have to be careful of, because unless and until we do that, no one's going to come and chant some mantras by which we'll transcend all these three modes. We have to row our own boat with help of others, no doubt, but that is the aim, to transcend the three modes of material nature, go back to Godhead as the aim of practicing devotional services. Thank you very much. So I'll stop here. If there's any corrections, comments or questions, we or any discussions we can have. Anyone? Yes, Prabhu. Is there a mic?
In the beginning, you were saying that as soon as we come from the spiritual world, and then we are connected here in this world of language. But when we have come from the spiritual world, actually we do not know. We have taken 84 billions of species of life, and we have not known that. And in those 84 species of lives, what we have done, we do not know. So according to that karmas, we are acting in this body. So now when we are acting in this body and when we associate with our devotees, then the things are different. And if we are not associating, we are in just material world, the things are totally different. So this is the fortunate, we are fortunate that we came in contact with devotees and received Bhagavad-Gita or some other book,
Right.
which brought us in connection and open our eyes.
Right.
That's how that we come in contact, and now we can go back home, back to body after so much separation from the spiritual life.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, that's what. We are very fortunate, and we should take full advantage of this. We have this great opportunity, and Prabhupada has made the most complicated things relatively very simple for everyone to follow, and we should take full advantage. Okay, anything else? If not, we'll. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Even the senior devotees and the Guru Maharaj are also affected by three modes of nature.
Unless they are on the Brahmabhut stage as transcending the modes, being in Vishuddha level, everyone is influenced. See, the difference between an ordinary person getting influenced and a person who's advanced getting influenced is big difference, in the sense that if I get influenced by anger, mode of ignorance, it takes me days to come back to normal situation, to normal circumstance. But an advanced devotee, that individual may become angry, but next moment is back to normal.
How?
Because due to his advancement in spiritual life.
And they understand this is a result of the modes of nature, the changing.
Absolutely, that's what, because of the advancement, because of practicing one sadhana, one devotional service, one is not influenced by the modes, but one overcomes the influence of the modes. That doesn't mean that one doesn't get angry, of course, but that how that quickly one comes back. The anger is used for the service. Karmana manasa gira. So that even anger is used in the service of the Supreme Personality Godhead, like Hanuman, for example. But in my case, our case, we use anger not for the service of the Lord, but for our own purpose. That's the difference. But even if this advanced devotees, spiritual masters, they seemingly, in our understanding, apparently they, in our misunderstanding, we think, oh, they're being influenced. But how quickly they recover back to a mode of goodness or above that, that is the key. That's what Arjuna is asking, text 21. What are the symptoms? What is the behavior of a person who's transcended these modes? And that's what is one known as. You make me angry for 1 week, I won't speak to you. That's my symptom. You make somebody angry, they will just brush it aside. Who's advanced, they won't even think about it. They're speaking to you normally. That's the difference. That's the behavior. Those are the symptoms of a person situated in the higher modes or who have gone above or beyond the modes. One has to look, one has to observe, one has to use one's intelligence and discrimination Not that we start judging everyone, no, but is that one is in right platform, one is the right knowledge, we are knowledgeable. And through knowledge, one also progresses. Bhagavad-Gita is all about knowledge. What Krishna is giving here is knowledge about the three modes of material nature. Knowledge about himself, knowledge about the world, knowledge about karma, knowledge about time, etc. Material nature. So this Gyan is very important. From the platform of Gyan, one progresses. And as Prabhupada points it out, in the we just read the purport of text 21, it's very important that we should know the symptoms of an individual. Otherwise, anyway, it's very important. Anything else? Yes, sir.
We see the Prabhupada example. He used to chastise the devotee at the next moment he was normal with them.
Yes.
We can see the Prabhupada.
Right.
And there also in Bhagavad-Gita we can see that Arjuna, he doesn't want to fight. And when Krishna convinces him, then immediately he understands that now he is got this body and he has to fight. So from the, if we are constantly on reading Bhagavad-Gita and meditating on Prabhupada and this one, then we can understand.
Yes. Yeah, it's constantly being in association with the book Bhagavad or a person Bhagavad. And in that association, our mind is kind of influenced in the right way. So association is very important. Personal sadhana is very important. Sadhana individually and collectively is very important. So association extremely important. Okay? Anything else? Otherwise we stop for today.
So, today's example, is two devotees had fight. So that was lack of devotion, isn't it? Lack of devotion, or they couldn't overcome that particular mode of the.
Well, today's fight, I heard, I heard about that. Well, it's naturally that the modes got better of them. The mode of ignorance got better of both. Whoever started it, I don't know. And today is Ekadashi. That's another trigger. Some may observe certain days one is influenced by the modes more than other days. And some devotees, Ekadashi is one of those days. One has to be more careful. So these are trigger points of going in lower modes and acting in that modes. As I said, certain things, enmity, jealousy, envy, somebody hungry, you speak to that person, somebody's got a headache, somebody speak to that individual. So there are many trigger points one has to be careful of. So I don't know what the story this morning was, but definitely the lower mode got better of that devotee, no doubt. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Nitya Gaur Premanandi. Hare Hare.